Welcome to the root of all success with the Real Jason Duncan, a podcast that explores how the world's most powerful entrepreneurs unlocked success and how their stories can help you do the same. A successful educator turned entrepreneur, Jason has built multi-million-dollar businesses that have been featured in Inc. magazine and Entrepreneur magazine. His life's mission now is helping entrepreneurs live what he calls #the exit lifestyle. Introducing TEDx speaker, mastermind leader, author, entrepreneur, cigar aficionado, motorcycle enthusiast, and host of the root of all success, the Real Jason Duncan. The Real Jason Duncan.
Well, welcome back to another episode. I'm the Real Jason Duncan. I'm going to be talking to Eric Estevez today. You can look him up at ericestevezthelender.com, or you can look him up on Instagram at the Eric Estevez. So he is, I guess, first generation American. His family's from the Dominican Republic. His dad moved over here when he's 18 years old and was a hustler and figured out how to succeed in the business. Eric took the route, as we're going to talk about in the show, of going the corporate route, got a degree from the University of Miami in international finance and marketing, went to work for some Fortune 50 companies that you probably shop at, Target and Walmart, some of these big guys, right? He's working for them and began dabbling in entrepreneurship. Wrote a children's book. We're going to talk about how he came up with the idea to write a children's book with his wife, and then started flipping phone apps, mobile apps, and then he started flipping houses, started investing. And from the first time he put 25 grand, which I find out in the show today, but he put 25 grand into a passive investment to let somebody else do the sweat equity while he was still a W-2 employee. From that point, about a year later, he said, I'm done with this corporate life. I'm done with W-2 life. I'm going to go do my own thing. And he did one thing he shouldn't have done. And I'm not going to tell you what that is, but you'll find out in the show today. But Eric's a great, great guy. I mean, he's got a mortgage company that does over $100 million a year in revenue. Listen, how many people do you talk to, do you know, that are 9-figure people? Well, you're about to meet one in Eric Estevez. This has led him to enter that top 1% of income earners in the United States. And he's also, which we didn't even talk about in the show today, and I wish we had gotten into it a little bit, but a VA outsourcing company. But one of the passions of his life is helping his daughter get into the music business. And he's going to talk about that. And you'll see he gets a little choked up about it. But Angelise Mariah is who she is. And we're going to talk a little bit about that too. But I want you to welcome my new friend, Eric Estevez, to the root of all success. Welcome to the show, my man.
Thanks for having me, Jason. It's a pleasure.
Hey, it's such a weird world, man, doing interviews on podcasts. Because sometimes I remember how I met people. Other times I'm like, dude, I have no idea how I met this cool person. So how did we meet? How did this introduction happen originally? Do you remember how we got introduced to each other?
Well, I know we got introduced through Rebecca from Command Your Brand, but I sent you a message on Instagram when I first heard about your podcast and introduced myself through Instagram. And we've been following each other now for a little while. That's leading up to our conversation today.
So I love Instagram. I was talking to somebody. I spoke at a conference this past weekend in Florida, and I was talking to somebody there about doing business with something happened, and we were talking, and I traced back in my mind that business deal started on Instagram. I met somebody on Instagram, and then we ended up connecting and doing, I don't know if we did a show together, but ended up doing business together. It's social media, dude. If you use it right, it is a powerful tool. But unfortunately, a lot of people use it wrong. Use it wrong.
I think, there's fundamentals in any business, but I think social media can give you a much deeper reach, much faster than ever before. So I agree.
So tell me and tell the listeners how you got started as an entrepreneur, because I know you had the corporate career, which I mentioned in the intro, and then you got into entrepreneurship. Tell me how you got into that.
Yeah, you know what? That's always been in my blood, Jason, Ray. I've always wanted to be a business owner, and I remember interning in Wall Street for a summer, and I just really wanted. I knew that I didn't want to work for for someone for the rest of my life. Now, life happens and it punches you in the gut sometimes, right? And at 21 years old, I was graduating from University of Miami, and my wife of 21 years was pregnant with my first daughter, right? So reality hit me quickly, and I don't think I had the courage at the time to go out and try to see what I can do for myself, because I had two other people that I had to fend for, right? So I just worked my way up the corporate ladder, but when I got myself into a better financial position and started getting awarded stock options and RSUs, that's when I started, dipping my toe in the pond of entrepreneurship.
So what was the first thing you did as an entrepreneur? Like, okay, I've been working for these Fortune 50 companies, but I'm going to do my own thing. What was that first thing?
My wife and I wrote a children's book, right, about our dog Chacho, right? And my wife has always been saying, I want to write a book. I want to start a children's book series. And we said, you know what, why not? And we did research, and we went ahead and we got self-published, and we published our book. Chacho, who passed away last year after 15 years, really kind of inspired or sparked our journey into the entrepreneurial world, right? And it was a passion project, and it was really cool because my whole entire family was involved. My kids were involved. We talked about stories of Chacho, right, and what we wanted to share with the world, and it was cool because our first step into the entrepreneurial world was a passion project, and it really felt great. And that just, it's the rest is history.
So Chacho's unfortunately gone on to doggy heaven. What kind of dog was Chacho?
Oh, Chacho was a miniature poodle. Yeah. So and since then we have two dogs after Chacho, and we're continuing. We have the second book written, and our goal is almost to use this book as a family reunion of sorts. As our kids get older, right? We want to meet and we want to write the next book together, and it's something that we feel we can share with the world.
So whose idea was it to write the book? Was it your wife's idea? Was it your idea?
It was 100% my wife. I have to give her credit, because she was a stay-at-home mom, right? And she was a soccer mom, for our kids, and she, Chacho was her companion while the kids were going to school, right? And she really had a deep connection with Chacho, and he was, he was there for my daughter's third birthday, and he was there when my son was born. So she just wanted to share some of those moments, and we felt like, hey, maybe we do something like a Clifford the Red Dog, right? The big red dog, but maybe Chacho's is a Spanish name, right, or a nickname, so you will, to connect with maybe the Hispanic generation, and that was a spark of it, and things were put on pause for a little bit because we started doing a lot of other things, and our lifestyles changed and whatnot, right? But we're ready to write the next book and publish the next book and continue writing.
So how long did it take you guys to get the manuscript put together for the book?
You know what? I think it took a couple of weeks. I remember, sitting around in our living room and talking about some of the stories and how are we going to start. And we started storyboarding and what's the second book going to be and what's the third book going to be and when do we introduce our second dog into the picture. So it took about 2 weeks, and then we got an editor. I started doing my own research, and it wasn't terribly expensive, but it wasn't. It was something that we can say, let's go ahead and start doing this, even if we don't make our money back, right? This is a passion project. It just makes us feel good. And quite honestly, Jason, like we basically broke even with publishing this book. But I think we're going to do this more for ourselves and to make money from it, right?
So you're running $100 million company today, but you were doing this self-published book out of your living room. Listen, there are a lot of people out there that listen to this, and they're thinking about doing something like this. Let's give them some facts. How much does it cost? How much does it cost to print, like to do the book project? I know you self-published. How much did it cost?
It was a few $1,000s. I think it was, between $3,000 to $5,000. And I think the most expensive part was getting an illustrator for the book. And we went ahead and we found an illustrator on Upwork, right? Which I use those freelancing websites for my own business today. And then we went ahead and we instead of going with, I know a lot of people can go with Amazon right now. We went with Outskirts Publishing, and we signed a deal with them, and then it was just really print on demand, right? So we didn't have boxes and boxes of books in our garage, right, sitting. With technology today, you have your own store, and as they order it, they print them, right? Obviously, the margins are a little less, but you don't have to worry about having all this inventory. So you basically, sell as you go. And again, our job was just to kind of build a foundation and build the infrastructure and learn. And then we started selling the books. And the great thing about that as well was that we were able to use that. And that year that we published the book was so memorable because when we started posting that we were now children's book authors, we were reading the book to children right across New Jersey, which is where we're from, going to libraries, right? Read Across America was always a big day for us, where we go and get invited to schools, and it's something that's still near and dear to our heart.
So it's $3 to $5 grand, a few weeks of kind of thinking through it. You get a book published. You said you broke even, so you sold enough books to make your $3 to $5 grand back. But the goodwill that is provided and the appetite, I think that it whetted your appetite for, hey man, we can go do something big here. So you got other books coming on the children's book stuff with Chaco and friends, right?
We do, yeah. We do have we have an idea of a series, right? We even said, hey, maybe down the road we could even make this into a cartoon or whatnot. But more so than that, you said it yourself. It really whetted our appetite for doing things that we love, right? And working for ourselves. And we live in the information age where we can figure this out, and that led to flipping mobile apps, right? Where I would just buy skins of phone apps, hire a developer. It's almost like flipping a house at a much lower scale, right? Because it's is thousands of dollars versus hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And then that led to me getting into real estate investing and learning how to flip homes and flipping homes of my own. And then that's what kind of led me to be a business owner today. And it leads into, right, so I manage my daughter's music career, right? So the cool thing is that, right, we're raising our children to really follow your passion, do what you love, the money will come.
Follow your passion, do what you love, the money will come. But what if I love something that ain't going to make any money?
I'm a firm believer, Jason, that if you love something, right, and you spend enough hours in it, right, it takes 10,000 hours to become a master at anything, right? And if you spend that time, the money in the beginning is not going to come. But if your passion is unwavering, right, you're going to continue to separate yourselves from other people that are doing the same things. And we have to be realistic. The money may not come right away, but after years of building a business, right, if you're passionate about something, you're going to continue to be good at it. I think the money's going to come, right? And a lot of people start doing this as a side hustle, and then a side hustle replaces their main hustle, right? And that's okay because we understand that you have to pay bills, right? But follow your passions is something that my wife, my daughter rather, was on a podcast earlier with that was just released, and she was talking about, she's 19 years old, and she's talking to these young girls and said, if you want to sing, if you want to be an entertainer, go for it, do it, right? There's so many outlets out there. As long as you have supportive people around you, that you can achieve your goals.
So you came out of college, right out of college, University of Miami. You had the degree, but you also had a wife and a baby on the way. And you decided to take what a lot of people would consider the safe route, which is go to the corporate world. I disagree that that's the safe route. And I think now you probably would too, because you're not in control of your own destiny when you're an employee. They are in control of your destiny. But nevertheless, you took what was considered at that moment the conventional wisdom tells us a safe route, and you build a pretty successful career there. Then you start writing books, right, with the kids' books. Where did the app flipping come? Because that's an interesting little thing, and you equated it to like house flipping, obviously different scale. How in the world did that happen? Like, how'd you find out about that?
Just researching, what kinds of things I can get into, and what's popular at that time, right? So this was, maybe 7-8 years ago. And I know that, apps were a big thing, right? And, I wasn't a developer. I didn't know how to code, right? But then I read about, these sites where you have these, skins of these apps, the bones of the apps that are already made, right? So some of that coding that's already made, and it's just a matter of now, right, for a fraction of the cost, really using that and building that, and try to get more users and try to sell them, right? And it's like building a little mini business, and it's, again, relatively low cost. It was a few $1,000s, similar to writing the book, that we were able to do that with several apps. And then once I started kind of getting, I could say, wow, we can build businesses, right, on a smaller scale. And now we started taking it from the lower thousands of dollars to now flipping houses in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And and now, right, trying to do some bigger things, even with the music career and whatnot. So, we started small with some of these businesses, right? And not all of them were huge successes, but you never lose, right, when you keep on moving forward.
You never lose when you keep moving forward. That's good. I like that. So you're flipping apps. And then you got into real estate. So you go from corporate career to children's book, flipping apps, then real estate. Were you still a W-2 employee throughout this whole process?
I was still a W-2 employee. I was still putting in 50, 60 hours a week, right? At these large retailers. And, fortunate that I grew to be a good leader in these companies. So I was a valuable asset, but I didn't control my time, right? I think I was able to develop a team, right, where I was able to, I was working towards a decent work-life balance, but I had to work Thanksgivings, right? I had to work, Christmas Eve, right, and weekends, and I had to miss some of my kids' football games, or baseball games or basketball games, where they're involved in every sport. And I became a Grinch during the holiday season, right? That's when we're busy. So, and my family loves Christmas, and I became a Grinch, and I remember, investing passively. I got a mentor that was flipping a lot of houses, and I said, I want to learn. I invested some money with him, but and got a rate of return, but more so than that, it was in education. So I was almost paying for a college education, which actually, I got a nice return back from my initial investment. Did that several times before I started flipping my own property, right? And then at that time, when I was doing a flip and it was a big add a level on a property, I remember going to my job and I was like a zombie, because I was just thinking about all these other cool things that was happening outside of that 9 to 5, right? So you will W-2 world. And I actually, I remember my boss came in one time, and I told her, I said, Debbie, I don't think I can do this anymore. It's not you, it's me. Right? I'm breaking up. Right? How much more time do you need? And I gave her a 45-day notice so they can go ahead and find a replacement for me. And I was able to spend some time with them to kind of take over the reins. And I left in good standing. I can go back tomorrow if I want to, right? But I remember leaving, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know that I was going to venture into the lending world. I thought I was going to flip houses, right, for the rest of my life. But I realized that it's not as easy as you see in these, seminars or on TV, right? So I knew I had to get another revenue source, and hence why I became a lender.
So you're flipping houses passively while you're still a corporate employee. Correct. And you've done the book already, you've done the apps, and now you're flipping houses passively. How much, if you don't mind, how much money were you investing passively to flip? Because I mean, if somebody else was doing it, I would imagine you're the investor. There's a sweat equity guy. Like, how much money were you investing to give people a sense of you can start making a break from your corporate career if you can do this?
Yeah, great question. We started with the book and apps with thousands of, $3,000, $5,000. My first passive investment in real estate was $25,000, and this was a restricted stock unit that vested, right? And because I would get awarded as a top performer in these companies. And I remember taking that $25,000 and I gave it to a friend of mine who was flipping these houses, and he gave me a 15% rate of return within 6 months, right, of that $25,000, which is a healthy return on investment. But more so than that, Jason, it was a knowledge. I was learning about hard money. I was learning about contracting. I was learning about, right, these LTVs, right, loan to value ratios, and all these terms, and after repair values, ARVs. And that education to me was paramount, right? And I did that several times, each time increasing my investment, until I took on my own project. And now we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And it wasn't myself. This was a big project. So I brought in some investors of my own, and we spent $250,000 renovating a particular property in a beautiful neighborhood. So that was a larger scale thing, right? But we started small, and we ended up pretty big.
So started 25K on a kind of a passive.
Yep.
From the time you did that until is Debbie was your boss? Is that what you said?
Yeah,
From that day you invested the 25 to the conversation you had with Debbie, I'm out. Like, how long of a time period was that?
It's about a year. I reinvested passively, several times in several properties. So it was about a year that it took me to the big flip. And there was an excitement within me, right? I was nervous, right? That's what I was thinking about when I was there. I didn't think I was giving my team 100% of me because my mind was elsewhere, and I don't think it was fair, and it wasn't fair to me, right? I wanted to spend time where I felt those butterflies in my stomach, right?
So about a year, so 25K, you flip 2 or 3 passively, and you have the conversation with Debbie, like, I'm out. So day one of your first day not being an employee, how'd that feel?
Well, after my wife yelled at me, because this is something I failed to miss. I made a decision that I did not consult that with my wife, right? I had a conversation, and I came home, and I told my wife, hey, I got 45 days, luckily I had to build a nice 401k, and I was able to cash out. I learned about, paying those taxes the hard way, right? But that's what helped us survive as I built the business, where, you basically eat what you kill, right? So you will. But that first day, the first couple months was very exciting, right? Because, we had money saved up, right? We said, okay, things are going well. Is obviously, as the project started taking longer, oh my God, my rate of return, my length of return in my investment for this flip is taking longer, right? You start getting a little bit more nervous, right? Especially now when your savings are dwindling. And I would say that I went through my entire, savings, right, while I was doing this flip and then figuring out what to do next. And you know what? I'm grateful for that, because it's almost like we lost all of our savings, everything that I've worked for 14 years. But if I didn't have that, Jason, I wouldn't have been as hungry as I was, in building this business. I mean, I was out there, and I'm a 5 a.m.er, and I would go to my office when we opened up an office, and I would get home at 10 o'clock at night. And I was working more hours than when I was working in retail, but I was working for myself, right? And I can tell you, right, that the first year was really hard. Second year was a little easier, right? But by the third year, I've earned more money than I've earned in the first 14 years in my career, and I was working for myself.
Let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
As an entrepreneur, I know that you have to deal with sales on a regular basis. I mean, every entrepreneur does. And if you aren't paying attention to sales as an entrepreneur, you're not going to be an entrepreneur for very long. But I've got a sponsor of this show called Dub that helps you bring the personal back to sales. If you want to figure out how to improve content creation, improve client trust, improve your sales process, decrease the sales cycle, because we all know time kills deals. If you want to increase client bookings and increase conversions, you need to take a look at Dub. There's a special offer for Dub for listeners to The Root of All Success at therealjasonduncan.com/Dub. And that's DUBB. I've been using this for years. I'm a huge fan, and I'm so honored that they're our primary sponsor of the podcast. They have helped over 60,000 businesses around the world communicate better, to make sales easier, to make sales more personal. Dub is built for growing teams. I mean, you can set up video emails, you can set up custom onboarding, you can do admin reporting, anything you need around video and sales and automation. Dub is there. You can try Dub now. Your conversions to sales are waiting. All you got to do is go to therealjasonduncan.com/dub. And there you're going to get 2 weeks for free to try Dub. Plus, you're going to get 50% off your first 2 months of Dub. You can't beat that. So go check it out. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/dub. 40 years ago, you weren't in business unless you had your business in the Yellow Pages. You remember those things? And 30 years ago, you weren't in business unless you had a door-to-door salesman. 20 years ago, you weren't in business unless you had a website. And today, you're not in business unless you're doing social media content. Am I right? Social media content. Social media content in the form of like micro content, which is 30 to 60 second spots on Instagram Reels or TikTok or YouTube Shorts. That's the way business is done. As a matter of fact, that may be how you found out about this podcast or me as a business coach. This medium that we're using today to communicate what we do is vitally important. And just recording yourself isn't enough. You've got to do it right. And my friends over at Story do it right. And one of the problems with doing it wrong is that you sit around thinking, well, what the heck am I going to record? What am I going to say? How am I going to say it? Like, I don't know what to talk about. Well, Story takes all of that away from you. Stop wasting time trying to come up with content, because Story will send you a video prompt on what to record. You can pick the categories you want to record in, whether it's real estate, entrepreneurship, finance, relationship, leadership, life insurance. It could be anything. Don't waste time on that. And by the way, if you're not confident in talking on video, or if the video editing portion takes up way too much of your time, Story will edit the videos to perform well on social media. They add the subtitles, the pop-ups, the zoom cuts. They remove all the filler words like and They remove the awkward pauses. And then they take that video and post it for you. They write the captions, they add the relevant hashtags, and they post it on the platforms that you care about the most. It's exactly what you need to be in business today and to be successful at it. So if you want to learn how to do social media the way the influencers do, you need to go to therealjasonduncan.com/story. And that's story with 2 Y's. Why? Because they're awesome. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/story. That's STORYY for 10% off your first 3 months to try Story out. You're going to thank me later.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
That's a sound clip right there, man. That's a sound bite, man. That is good stuff. So you took the leap and didn't tell your wife. I would not recommend that. Would not recommend that. You gotta have your partner on board with this. So you didn't tell her. It was exciting though. You made it through that first year. And were you just doing flips those first 2 or 3 years? Is that all you were doing?
Well, no. So when I left, my job, that summer, I was always, all I was doing is the flip, right? I was focused on that, following up. I was almost like I would show up to the house, make sure everything was going well. And we've had a lot, I've learned a lot, and we had a lot of failures in that big flip, because this is a bigger flip. And I just kind of, took the summer off, because we had some savings in there, right? But then when I realized, okay, this is taking longer than anticipated. What's the next deal? Where's it coming from? We have to build the infrastructure. I am fortunate that my father has been in the lending world for 25 years, but my father's been like a one-man team, right? Never really built a team, worked on his own. He was successful at it, right? But not at the levels that I wanted to take a business. And I remember speaking to him on a Thursday, and I said, "Pops, what do you think if we work together? If I get licensed, then I use my skills to build a team, and you just help me how to put a loan together." And this was a Thursday, and on Monday I was taking my class, and then the following Wednesday I took my test, right? And I failed my first time, right, with a 74. To get your mortgage loan original license, you have to have a 75 score or better. And I failed by 1 point. And I remember this was in August, and then I had to wait 30 days in order for me to retake it. And I remember it was September 11th. and in September, and I passed my test, and the rest is history. It was myself and my father in a small little office, and he was just teaching me about loans and about terminology, and I was just I was out there meeting with people, marketing myself, marketing the business, hiring people, right? And then I joined forces with another gentleman that I met in our prior company, and it took us 4 years to go from 0 to 100 million in revenue. Right. So, using my father's past experience and using that experience to help leverage, right, that learning curve, or lessening the shortening that learning curve rather, we were able to just build a team, and I always knew that we will never get to where we need to be without the right team, and that's what I was good at, and we built it, right, and the team is an amazing team, allows us to continue to grow and bring more business into our pipeline.
$100 million, man. There's not a lot of people that can say they built a business that does 9 figures, man. How's that feel?
It feels great. It feels great. I think, last year it was a tough year for the mortgage industry and the real estate industry. So we all had a reduction, right? But I think that our reduction still beat the reduction of the average across the industry. I'm fortunate that, they use me. We work with, we own a branch of a national company, and they use me. I spoke, right, I did one of these trainings, a Zoom training, where hundreds of loan originators across the country, and they use me as an example, and they help me. They use me to teach newer loan originators, even older loan originators, just to try to implement some of the things that we're doing. And it just feels good. It feels good to be able to take something that's been around for such a long time and put your own flavor into it, right? And help it grow. And it's exciting every single day to me that I wake up and I'm excited for what I do.
Man, that's quite a story. That's quite a story. So you and your dad working together, you guys are killing it, building this huge empire on the lender side. But you've also got a 19-year-old daughter who's in the music business that you're able to work with. So you're working with a generation before you and a generation after you. So tell me a little bit about what it's like working with your daughter on her music career.
Oh man, I get choked up. Yeah, it's great because my father came to this country, from the Dominican Republic when he's 18, and he hustled, man. My parents hustled to give us a better life and give us a good education. And we went, and our job is to go to school, get educated, go get good jobs, right? But I think that now, I'm able to teach my kids, to really, follow their dreams, right? And I think, school's important and education is important, but it really is about following your dream. And my daughter, since such a young age, she knew she wanted to be an entertainer, right? And I remember I used to go to daddy-daughter dates with her, right? Every quarter. And I remember, posting videos of her singing in some, local, her school talent shows. And someone mentioned a talent agency in New York. And I remember this was 10 years ago. And I said, hey, daddy-daughter date, let's take a train into New York City. Let's go check this out. And I remember she blew the agent away. And I remember the agent walked out after talking to my daughter. She walked out and said, hey, I want to represent your daughter. And all I said is, I'm not paying anything, right? This is a scam, right? And she goes, no, this isn't a scam. She explained to me this, they get 15% off of every job they book. And my daughter always wanted to entertain, so I said I'm going to push her for that. And she's been signed to a talent agency since. She's been doing television commercials, print ad, right? She went to performing arts high school, and this is the only thing that she's ever wanted to do. And I wish I had a passion like that my daughter had, and had that clarity, right? Since being a child. And I think our job as parents, if we have a child that is clear about what they want to do, right? We want to support that, because not that many people have that clarity. And now, right, it's on a bigger scale. Right now, she started writing music and she started recording music. She's on iTunes and Spotify and all platforms. And now we're going to be recording our first music video. We were at a photo shoot last week. So it's cool that I've been able to build a business that runs, right? I'm still the face of it, but we have a team that can allow me to step away and build other businesses, which right now, the most exciting thing is my daughter's music career.
Well, you're speaking my language on a couple of levels. Number one, I'm a dad as well, and I love to see my kids succeed. I loved, and my kids are 22 and 20, and so I'm proud of what you're experiencing because I know what that feels like. I know what that feels like as a dad. The other thing is what you said there at the very end. I think is really, really key, and this is something I teach as a business coach all the time. Is that if you're the owner operator of your business, man, if you're running it 50, 60, 70 hours a week, owner operator, you're missing the point. The point of business ownership is to have the financial resources to do what you really want to do. And so now you've built a tremendously successful business with your dad, and it allows you the opportunity to go spend time with your daughter to help her pursue her dreams. And if you were hustling and grinding like everybody tells you got to do in your business, dude, you wouldn't be spending time with your daughter, man. So you're giving this gift to your daughter by stepping away from the daily operations of your business. And I applaud you, man. Eric, I think that's fantastic. That's better than $100 million revenue, what you're doing.
I agree. And you know, and it's great. My father works for me, but my mother works for us too. She's one of our assistants, right? You know, my wife got her real estate license. She's also working with us. So it's like a family enterprise that we're building, right? So we're spending time together, quality time, right? We don't just talk about work, obviously, but we're always in communication. And you know what? To me, you know, that time is so important. And yeah, you know what? I'm learning about the music industry. So right now I'm all about reading books about the music industry, listening to podcasts. My TikTok feed right now, it's real estate, right? And comedy and music industry, right? Cause I am on TikTok and I get goofy, right? But I get deals from TikTok too, because we educate. But I'm taking those things, right? The same things that I learned from the book, writing the book and the mobile app flipping and the house flipping, right, and building a business, and I'm able to say, okay, well, how fast can I get my daughter to where we need her to be? Because I have all these fundamentals. I just need the know-how, right? I need to learn a little bit more. I need the right connections, and you know, hopefully by the end of this year we get her signed to a major label.
Man, so tell me your daughter's name. Tell everybody so they can go look her up.
Oh yeah, so her name is Angelise, Angel, YSE. Mariah, like Mariah Carey, that's her middle name. So Angelise Mariah, you can find her on Instagram, on TikTok, right, on iTunes and Spotify. She has a few singles out right now, but we have some music that we're going to start to release along with some visuals. So we're happy for that.
Man, congratulations, dude. So let me ask you this. So the show is called The Root of All Success. So what do you think is the root of your success? Like, what has led you to be so successful in real estate and mortgage and lending, and now with everything else you got going on with your daughter?
So that's an amazing question, you know, and I can answer that in two parts. I think one, you know, I think the most successful people really truly analyze their failures, right, and they build from they build from the wins that they've had. So like I mentioned, you know, when you look at Elon Musk's and you look at, right, you know, these billionaires that are out there, they failed so much more than the average person. They weren't afraid to fail. But also when they failed, they said, okay, that didn't work, but these things did work. Let me take that and add it to my next business. And I think when you really dissect any business like that, right, I think that you can drive a successful business. And I'm able to now create some different businesses in different industries, right, with those same fundamentals, right? But success is not just business, right? You know, I was listening to, you know, I was re-listening to Zig Ziglar's Born to Win the other day, and he was talking about how success is a wheel, right? There's a wheel with different spokes on it. And you can put your own spokes on there, whether it's, you know, your career, your finances, your relationship with your significant other, right, your relationship with your kids and your family, your health. And I think that success is when you're working on all those things, right, on all those spokes of life. Because quite honestly, Jason, somebody can be of great financial success, but could be a horrible husband, right, or could be a horrible father. And is that really successful, right? I think is when you have that balance and you look at that always and say to yourself, okay, when you have a vision board or when you have goals, don't just focus on your career, right? Career is just one part of who you are, right? Focus on the rest. And for me, for example, I don't think I'm going to be, I don't think I'm successful until my health has been the biggest, that spoke of the wheel has been cracked, right? And I know that now is now or never. I'm 41 years old. I'm going to the gym. I'm eating better. I have to get healthy because for the last 20 years, I kind of let myself go. And luckily, I've built businesses to give me enough time, right, to go and work on myself. So those are my definitions. I'm sorry, it's a little long-winded.
Well, so no, I said, you said your key to success here is truly analyzing your failures and building from the wins. Genius. I think that's really, really good. How do you, if you had to define success, like in a phrase, what do you think success is?
I think success is really being happy in all those spokes of that wheel of life, right? We and success is different to other people, but I define it like in mine is if I'm a good son, husband, father, right? If I'm healthy, if I'm moving forward with my career goals, if my financials are getting better, especially from a passive perspective, right? I'm getting passive income. To me, those are the spokes of wheel in life that if I'm working on all those things, I'm happier, right? And everybody might be a little different, and that might shift within your lifetime, right? But that's what I'm working on today. I'm trying to work on all the spokes of those wheels to really truly feel successful.
So with that as a definition, being happy in all aspects of life, do you consider yourself to be a successful person?
I'm getting there, right? I think that I'm successful in many of those spokes of the wheel. I just mentioned that the health, right? I just came from physical earlier today because I'm focused on my health. Like I'm 5'9", 255 pounds. I'm stocky. I used to play football, but I'm overweight, Jason, right? And I'm getting featured on television. I do Spanish channel television every Sunday morning to educate the community about mortgages, and I've been featured on the competitor Univision several times already. So I'm doing more television. I'm doing more speaking engagements. I'm doing these podcasts. I don't feel I'm self-conscious about the way I look, right? So when it comes to that, I don't feel I'm successful yet. But now I know that my number one goal. I have two goals this year, right? I kept it simple. I want to lose 40 pounds, and I want to sign my daughter, right? Because if I'm helping my daughter with her career, I'm gonna be ecstatic. I don't care what else is happening with me. I'm gonna be over the moon. And if I get healthy, that's gonna be the last piece of the wheel that I felt that I've really neglected for all these years. So I really want to focus on those two things.
Well, I appreciate the transparency, man. This is the kind of stuff that I think the listeners want to hear. They want to hear the fact that, dude, it's great to go build $100 million company. It's great to do all these cool stuff. But man, if you're screwed up in your health or your family is all jacked up, if something's out of whack, you can't enjoy those things. It's not all about the money. Now the money helps it. It helps you spend, it helps you have better perspective, but I appreciate that transparency and that vulnerability. Well, how can people get in touch with you? I know that there are people that are going to want to reach out because this is a good story, very motivational. So what's the best way for people to get in touch with Eric Estevez?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me on Instagram, the Eric Estevez, EricEstevez. You can also go on my website, ericestevezthelender.com, and reach out to me through there. And yeah, listen, I'm very responsive on social media, so I'm here to help.
Well, so on the lender, ericestevezthelender.com, are you guys licensed in all 50 states in case anybody's interested in getting a mortgage?
Yeah. Great question, and thank you for putting that out. So my branch isn't. We're licensed in most states across the Eastern Seaboard, but Nations Lending as a whole is licensed in all 50 states. So I'll be able to refer you to the right people to help you.
Yeah. So no matter where you are in the U.S., if you are in the need of a mortgage, reach out to Eric Estevez, thelender.com. Eric Estevez, the lender. Look at him up on Instagram. The Eric Estevez on Instagram. The Eric Estevez. Eric's been a pleasure talking to you, man. I'm going to give you the last word. I like to give guests the last word. So if there's anything else you want to say before we sign off today, it's all yours.
I just want to thank you, Jason, for having me. I think that what you're doing, right? I urge people to continue having conversations like we just had, even if it's not a podcast. Reach out to a mentor, someone that's already been successful, achieve what you're trying to achieve. This is a year for you that should be connections, because when you have those people around you, you're going to see yourself being gravitated to their world. And I know, Jason, that since you've had this podcast, I'm pretty sure you've grown exponentially because you've been able to meet so many different people and learn from them. And I think that that's one of the greatest things. And this is what you do is a lot of effort in what you do. But even if you don't start a podcast, for everyone else, go out there and connect, meet people, shoot messages, have a 15-minute conversation, and I guarantee you're going to grow.
Love it. Thanks, Eric, for being on the show, man. I wish you the most success you'll ever experience this year, because you're going to be 40 pounds down and your daughter is going to be a signed recording artist, man. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. Another very successful entrepreneur on his story from corporate life to the ideal life, the life of freedom of time. Eric Estevez story is inspirational. And as a listener, I want you to really pay attention to the nuggets of information that he gave us, that he put in his time in the corporate world. He dabbled in entrepreneurship until it became an obsession that he could not live without doing. But I think the coolest part about all that is that he was able to build a business, a successful business, without being there 50, 60, 70 hours a week. That he built it where he could step away from the daily operations. Why? Not just to sip Mai Tais on a beach somewhere, but so that he could invest time with his daughter and with his family. And his definition of success is about having that success across all aspects of life, all the spokes and the wheels, as he talked about it, referencing to Zig Ziglar and the wheel of success. And he even got transparent with us and showed us the softer side of what success looks like. And that's, hey man, I got to be better at health. I got to lose some weight. I got to get better. And because of that, he doesn't yet consider himself to be the successful person that he wants to be. But by all accounts, from the outside looking in, Eric's killing it. And we're very proud of him. And I'm happy to know him. And I want you to go look him up, the Eric Estevez on Instagram, or Eric Estevez, thelender.com. We'll tune in again next week when I talk with yet another very successful entrepreneur about his or her journey to success. Until then, I am the real Jason Duncan, and Jesus is King.
Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. Are you an entrepreneur who feels trapped in the weeds of daily operations, not experiencing the freedom you thought you'd have as a business owner? Want to know the way out? Take Jason's free exit readiness assessment to see how close you are to getting ready to experience true freedom and success as an entrepreneur. Go to amireadytoexit.com today. That's amireadytoexit.com. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.